Luo Feng unsheathed his spear and held it to the guide's head. Just then, a woman in high heels descended from another spaceship, approached them, and stepped on the fat guy's head, making his eyes widen in fear and causing him to sweat like crazy. He knew, better than anyone, that he was in serious trouble. The elf-eared woman crossed her arms and stared down at the guide. With a curious gaze, she asked Luo Feng if this guy had also come to get some benefit from the immortal-level genius's homeworld. Luo Feng nodded. With a serious expression, he asked her to restrain him and interrogate him harshly. They needed to find out if he had done anything else out of line on this planet, so they would have an explanation when the immortal genius returned. The woman pondered in silence, and just then, more nobles began to descend from their ships and land near them. Luo Feng and the woman turned around, and their eyes began to shine with seriousness. While the woman was stepping on the guide's head, a noble began to walk towards them and, with a smile, spread his hands, commenting that they actually had to thank this guy too. For if it weren't for an unlucky fool like him, unable to see reality, they wouldn't have had such a magnificent opportunity to meet the immortal genius. With a wicked smile, the man suggested using the guide as a sacrificial banner. The other nobles nodded, knowing it was a good idea. With a smile, Luo Feng also nodded. This was an immortal-grade bloodline. Although he was only at level 9 right now, with time, it was entirely possible that the genius could leave this star sector, and even this galaxy. The woman placed her hand under her chin, and her eyes began to shine with excitement. She realized that, by then, he might no longer be an immortal genius. He would become an immortal marquis, a duke, or even an immortal king. As the woman continued to step on the guide's head, Luo Feng couldn't help but feel frustrated, as it was a real shame that Lu Sheng wasn't from their White Mist Star sector. Luo Feng let out a sigh and his eyes began to shine with determination, since despite everything, having Speaker Zheng Luopu pulling some strings to help them establish good connections was a stroke of luck. The guide's face was covered in sweat and his mind was flooded with fear. Better than anyone, he knew he had to do something. The fat guy's eyes widened in panic and tears began to stream from them like an endless river as he wondered in horror if he had truly siphoned profits from the immortal count's very own home world. The fat guy was in shock as he couldn't believe that the 1 in a billion chance of this happening had fallen to him. The sun was setting and the woman continued to step on the arrogant guide's head. The only thing the fat guy could do was feel frustrated, wondering why the hell he had joined the resources department. He thought it would have been much better to simply buy a star lottery ticket and sit at home waiting for the jackpot. Poor Zheng Yu slowly began to regain consciousness. With an expression full of fear, she started to cough and open her eyes. The woman pressed down even harder on the guide's head, ordering him to kneel properly. When Zheng Yu lifted her head, her mind was filled with confusion. She didn't know what was happening. Luo Feng turned around and with a serene expression began to walk towards her in silence. Luo Feng was a true gentleman. He helped Zheng Yu to her feet and asked if she was all right, as he knew she had been through a lot. With a smile, she replied that she felt much better now and thanked him for his help. While Luo Feng's eyes shone with serenity, he took out a small green vial and removed its cap, causing drops to begin falling toward the ground. Zheng Yu's attention was fixed on it, and her eyes widened in surprise as she noticed the powerful aura. The drops hit the ground, and not long after, grass sprouted from nothing. A smile appeared on Luo Feng's face, and Zheng Yu's jaw dropped in shock. She didn't know what was happening. Observing carefully, she realized that it had revitalized the entire land in an instant. Her eyes widened in surprise as she felt a strange sensation. She placed her hand over her chest, feeling a wave of relief as a warm power enveloped her. Her wounds had been cleansed by the vitality radiating from the land, and it felt incredibly comforting. Holding up the potion with a kind smile, Luo Feng explained that he didn't have any below level 11. This mystic purple potion could heal wounds, but it had to be diluted 100 million times before it could be consumed. So he had no choice but to pour it onto this land to nourish the planet. All Zheng Yu could do was stare in silence. Luo Feng offered her the potion, arguing that if she could be healed from even the slightest core radiation and even greatly increase her strength, then the immortal count's homeworld couldn't be so barren. Zheng Yu's mind was filled with questions. She didn't know what to do. With a grateful expression, she bowed her head to Luo Feng, thanking his lordship for saving her life. She looked down at the ground and couldn't help but blush, thinking that this was too valuable. She realized that a single vial of the potion could evolve the entire blue star. She had only suffered a slight impact to her soul, and would be fine after some rest. This kind of healing potion could be worth more than the entire planet. She placed her hand on her chest and stopped bowing to Luo Feng. She was red as a tomato, and paying close attention. She realized her strength had also greatly increased because of it. She closed her eyes and let out a sigh, thinking about the bitter days when she painstakingly gathered energy crystals to exchange for a guide's leftovers. Now, however, just by basking in the radiance of a high-level life form, she could grow stronger just like that. This was truly astounding. The elf-eared woman kicked the fat guy in the rear, ordering him to behave and move. The guide's demeanor changed instantly. He was like a dog now. Zheng Yui's attention fixed on them, and she was stunned. It was no wonder that even a level 10 guide was like an ant in their eyes, something they could crush with the flick of a finger. With a surprised gaze, she approached Luo Feng and asked who the immortal earl he had just mentioned was. Luo Feng's attention turned to her. With a smile, he mentioned that he had forgotten she knew nothing about the immortal earl. Luo Feng revealed that the immortal earl was the one who had left this blue planet. Zheng Yu began to picture Lu Sheng smiling, and her eyes widened in surprise, leaving her in utter shock. Luo Feng knew that she called him the God of War. He explained that Earl Lu Sheng possessed the most powerful immortal-class extraordinary physique ever seen in both the White Mist sector and the Yamu sector, being hailed as the greatest genius of their 13 sectors in a million years. Therefore, the Yamu Star Sector Federation conferred upon him the title of Immortal. The eyes of the nearby martial saints widened in surprise. One of them began to point at Luo Feng, urging the others to listen, as they had just said they were sent by Lord Lu's faction. The martial saints began to converse among themselves. They were stunned that Lord Lu had left Blue Star only a few months ago, and, in the blink of an eye, had already become one of the most important figures in the entire cosmos. The first true prodigy in a million years. Heavens, this was incredible. Zheng Yu began to recall what Snowy had mentioned. It seemed Lu Sheng was doing more or less okay out there. Closing her eyes, she felt joyful as she remembered asking Mrs. Lu previously, and she had told her that he was barely managing out there in the stars. Her eyes filled with relief and she adjusted a lock of her hair, as she finally understood what the expression more or less meant. At the same time, somewhere else, the ship Whitebird was en route to Blue Star. Inside the ship, Lu Sheng was focused, meditating in silence. Lu Sheng began to gaze toward the ground and his body started to emit an intense energy. Without wasting a second, Lu Sheng clenched his fist tightly and emerged from the spaceship. While his eyes were shining with tranquility, he began to concentrate his martial energy into his fist. In front of Lu Sheng was a void. Without wasting a second, Lu Sheng struck hard. His power caused the void to slowly begin to close and collapse. Our boy, with his fist clenched, began to observe attentively and felt joyful upon noticing that this power could even collapse the void. Although they were clearly of the same level of martial heritage, he wondered why this one was much stronger than the wind martial Dao he had inherited from Salus last time. His eyes began to shine with curiosity, as he thought that perhaps this was due to the Starfall Fate Disc. He remembered that during that trial, a massive wave of power had entered his body from the starry sky at the end, causing his strength to skyrocket. His expression turned serious, as he could now even feel the blue planet from light years away. His perception had also increased significantly. Lu Sheng concentrated, causing an intense yet powerful energy to begin to surge from his body. His mentor's Tao of the Four Extremes was truly marvelous. The inheritance he had just received allowed him to reach level 5 in his palm techniques, while his boxing, sword techniques, spear techniques, axe techniques, and body techniques were approaching the peak of this same level. Lu Sheng took out his mobile phone and turned it on. With an ironic look, he remembered that he had been told they would contact someone to solve the problem, and he wanted to see if it was already resolved. He made a video call to Snowy, who, with a smile, asked Lu Sheng if he was finally returning. With a kind smile, he explained to his wife that yes, but that he still had half a day of travel left, and he asked her if everything was finished. With a nervous expression, she told him yes, it was resolved, only it had been a bit noisy. His eyes widened in confusion and curiosity, wondering just how noisy it could be. His wife said he would find out when he got back. Half a day later, Lu Sheng approached the blue planet, and his eyes filled with surprise, leaving him in shock. There were hundreds of enormous spaceships near the blue planet. He couldn't believe she could call this a bit noisy. This was too much. Placing his hands on the table, Lu Sheng stood up, his gaze fixed on the spaceships, wondering how many people the counselor had found to help him and if the situation had really been that serious. At that moment, someone asked if he was the immortal Earl. His eyes filled with confusion, and he confirmed that he was. Hundreds of ships lined up in front of Lu Sheng's, and one of them projected a message, welcoming the immortal Earl on his return to his home planet. Lu Sheng was in shock. He realized this was a grand spectacle, and that now, without a doubt, he owed a huge favor. Thanks for watching Vivify Recaps. If you enjoyed it, hit like, subscribe, and drop your next recap request in the comments. See you in the next one.